So I'm just going to open this up with a broad question for you to kind of educate me and my listeners as to not just what happened yesterday, but what's going on bigger picture in Argentina, and then even one step above that, why should Americans care?
There's a lot to answer there, Ross, but what happened yesterday in Argentina was great news. Javier Milei is the libertarian president of Argentina, a country that for 70 years was basically governed by socialists, by interventionists, the Peronists, who increased the burden of government, imposed protectionism, regulated everything. They had sort of this corporatist, fascist, socialist model of government being everywhere, controlling everything. The economy went so far down that Argentinian voters did something really radical 2 years ago and elected a libertarian, Javier Milei. I mean, this guy is as rabid as I've ever wanted to be. I mean, just imagine electing Ron Paul as governor of California or something like that. That will give you an idea of how completely unexpected that was. And then Milei gets into office. He does all these great free market reforms, at least what he was able to do with a hostile legislature, reduced the burden of government spending by 6 percentage points of GDP, a world record for spending cuts in peacetime. But everyone was worried. Well, the midterm elections are coming up. Will there be a backlash against this so-called austerity? And I was worried. Yesterday, I'm messaging back and forth with all the people I've gotten to know in Argentina because of my trips down there over the last couple of years. And we were all very concerned. Well, maybe the Peronists would win the popular vote. And more important, they might strengthen themselves in the legislature. But what we got was a landslide for the libertarians. And the reason this matters for Americans, finally getting around to your last question, Javier Milei is a role model. When I talk to Republicans on Capitol Hill, many of them know we need to reform entitlements. We need to push back against Trump's protectionism. Many of them know what good policy is, but they've been scared of voters. And Javier Milei is showing not only American Republicans, but the Conservative Party in the UK, the Christian Democrats in Germany. He is showing supposed right of center parties all over the world that you can do the right thing. And as long as you explain it to voters, they're going to reward you.
So some of the stuff you mentioned that Milei has done with cutting government spending and cutting regulation and so on, you know, to econ nerds like you and me, like we get that and we kind of understand how important that is. To a lot of folks, that stuff seems a little bit ethereal. So I wonder if you could please explain the impact of Milei on inflation, which is something that everybody in Argentina would not just understand, but would feel every day.
Well, let me give you some background information first. Economic policy matters. If you go back to the end of World War II, Argentina was one of the 10 richest countries in the world. They were on par with other advanced democracies, only a little bit behind the United States. But because of Peronism, sort of this 70 plus years of just gradual statism, bigger government, more intervention, Argentina has dramatically declined. And they went from being one of the world's rich countries to being sort of a relatively weak middle income country. And Milei says, we have to stop that. We're going to collapse. Things are going in the wrong direction. Under the Peronists, right about the time Milei got elected, inflation had skyrocketed to about 230%. The tax system is incredibly burdensome on the people of Argentina. Poverty had spiked to more than 50% under the Peronists. All sorts of really bad numbers, which again confirm that economic policy does matter. Milei gets in office. He slashes government spending by record amounts in the first year. Poverty's gone down. Private sector incomes are going up. Inflation has collapsed from 230% down to close to 20%. And of course, it's heading down towards zero. And by the way, this election might give Milei the ability to dollarize the economy, which would not only protect against their central bank printing money to finance big government today, but it will protect the country into the future, just in case the Peronists ever get in office. There are a lot of reforms that still need to happen. Milei has done great work, but he's never had control of the legislature. And he still doesn't after this election, but his party picked up a ton of seats. And there's a great chance now of working with some of the independent parties, not the Peronistas, but the independent parties. He might be able to do tax reform, labor law reform, free trade, all these things that are needed to, as Milei says, to make Argentina great again.
Last thing for you, Dan. What do you think the chances are of there being a little contagion in a positive way from this in other parts of South America? Actually, it seems like we've seen a little bit of that already. But what are you cautiously optimistic that a continent that has been drifting leftward for a generation or two might start getting a little better?
That's to me the most exciting part of what happened in Argentina yesterday. We already see that Malay's economic free market reforms have delivered great results: lower inflation, higher income, lower poverty. But the key thing, the signal that's needed for politicians in other countries is that it's politically successful as well. And this libertarian landslide in the midterm elections, that's great. I mean, Chile's having a presidential election later this year. But the key thing is all over the world. I've been speaking this year in Europe and Asia and Latin America. Every place I go, people are asking about Javier Milei. At least in the policy world, people know that that is the single most important economic experiment happening today. They see the good results economically, and now they're going to see the good results politically. So just like Reagan and Thatcher triggered free market reforms around the world 40, 45 years ago, I think Javier Milei is going to be the leader in global economic reform in the coming years. And for once in my life, I'm actually optimistic. That doesn't happen very often, but I am so pumped up about how Argentinian voters did the right thing and voted for freedom over statism.